I was halfway under Mrs. Callahan's busted pipe fence when I heard her truck roll up behind me, and the first thing she said was, "Please tell me that is not your final solution." That was Hannah Callahan all over. 45 years old, boots in the dust, one hand on her hip, looking at a mess like it had personally offended her. I pushed my hat back and looked up from the twisted wire. "Morning to you too. It was morning 3 hours ago. Then you're late." She stared at me for half a second, then laughed like she didn't want to. That laugh hit me harder than it should have. I had known that woman since I was 10. Back then she was Mrs. Callahan, my best friend Tyler's mom, the one who made too much chili, hollered at us for leaving football cleats in the mudroom, and somehow always knew when we were lying. I spent more nights at that house than I did at my own some years. Tyler and I fished in their stock tank, rode bikes down the Caliche Road, threw a ball until dark, and ate everything that came out of her kitchen. Back then she was just part of the house. Now she stepped out of a white ranch truck in faded jeans and a gray tank under an open work shirt, her hair tied up messy, sunglasses on top of her head, and I had to remind myself where I was looking. I was 29, not some kid tracking mud across her tile anymore. I worked cattle, hauled feed, fixed fence, helped with horses, and got called whenever somebody's day fell apart. I wasn't rich. I didn't have an office. I had a truck with a bad rattle, 2 good saddles, and hands that were always scraped up. But I knew what to do when a gate sagged, when a horse started favoring one leg, when a storm put half a tree across a road, or when a bull decided a fence was more like a suggestion. That morning, her south pasture fence had gone down near the creek bed, and 3 of her neighbor's yearlings had wandered in like they owned the place. "I thought Carlos was coming," she said, walking closer. "His little girl's got a fever. He called me. And you just came? That's usually what it means when somebody calls me." She gave me a look. Still cocky. Still bossy. That time she didn't laugh. She just looked at me. It was one of those looks that lasted a little too long to be nothing. The sun was behind her, bright on her shoulders, and dust moved around her boots. For a second, I could still see the woman who used to stand in the doorway with a dish towel over one shoulder, telling Tyler and me to wash up before supper. But that picture didn't fit anymore. Not with the way she was looking at me. Not with the way I noticed her mouth when she pressed it tight. She looked away first. "Where do you need me?" she asked. I cleared my throat and pointed at the far post. "Hold that rail steady. I'll reset the brace." "I know how a brace works, Jake." "Didn't say you didn't. You were about to." "No, ma'am." She narrowed her eyes. "Don't you ma'am me like I'm 80. I grinned before I could stop myself. "Yes, Hannah." Her name felt strange in my mouth. Too familiar. Too new. She noticed. I could tell she did. Her jaw shifted, and she turned toward the fence like the wire suddenly needed all her attention. We worked like that for the next hour. No big talk. Just fence pliers, staples, a post-hole digger, sweat, and a few sharp comments tossed back and forth. She was stronger than people gave her credit for. Not in that showy gym way, but in the way of somebody who had spent years carrying feed buckets, dragging hoses, loading tack, and doing things because no one else was standing there to do them. Her divorce had been final maybe 8 months by then. Everybody in town knew the outline. Her husband, Bill, had moved out toward San Angelo with a woman who sold real estate and wore too much perfume. That was the version people told at the feed store anyway. Hannah never said much about it. She just kept the property running, helped with books at the ranch supply, organized half the county fair setup, and made people regret talking down to her. I had seen her around since Tyler left for Dallas, but not like this. Not close. Not working beside her while sweat ran down her neck and her shirt stuck to her back. Not hearing her breathe hard when we dragged the bent panel out of the weeds. Not catching her watching my hands when I twisted wire tight. At one point, the post slipped while she was holding it, and I stepped in fast, my arm crossing in front of her to catch the weight. "Careful," I said. "I had it." "You didn't." "I said I had it. And I'm saying you almost took a cedar post to the collarbone." She turned toward me, close enough that I could see the little gold flecks in her eyes. "You always this annoying when you help people? Only the ones who argue with physics. Her mouth opened like she had a comeback, then closed. Neither of us moved right away. I became very aware of my hand still on the post beside her shoulder, of how little space there was between us, of the fact that I could smell dust, sun, and whatever soap she used. Clean, warm, simple. Nothing fancy. Then one of the yearlings bawled from the far corner, and she stepped back. "Your escape artist is getting impatient," she said, voice a little rougher than before. "Yeah," I said. "So am I." I didn't mean it the way it sounded. Or maybe I did. Either way, she heard it. Her eyes snapped back to mine. For a second, the whole pasture went quiet in my head. No birds, no cattle, no truck ticking behind us. Just Hannah Callahan looking at me like she had finally noticed I wasn't Tyler's dusty sidekick anymore. Then she turned and walked to the truck. "Finish the fence," she said over her shoulder. "Then I'll buy you lunch. At your place." She paused with one hand on the open door. That a problem? It should have been. It should have felt normal too, after all the meals I'd eaten in that kitchen as a boy. But nothing about the way she said it felt normal. "No," I said. "Not a problem." She got in the truck, but she didn't start it right away. She sat there a moment, looking through the windshield toward the house, then back at me in the mirror. I bent down for my pliers and acted like I didn't see. But I did. And by the time I finished tightening that last stretch of wire, I knew lunch was not the thing either of us was thinking about. Lunch at Hannah's house should have been the easiest thing in the world. I had eaten at that table 100 times growing up. I knew which cabinet held the plates, which drawer stuck if you pulled it crooked, and which window looked out toward the old pecan tree where Tyler and I used to toss a football until she yelled for us to quit before we broke something. But that day, I sat there with a glass of iced tea in front of me and felt like I had walked into the wrong house. Not because anything had changed much. The table was the same. The walls were still lined with old family pictures and rodeo ribbons and framed school shots of Tyler with bad hair. But Hannah moved around the kitchen different now. Or maybe I watched different. She opened the fridge, leaned in, reached up for plates, and I kept making myself look at normal things. The salt shaker. The window. My hands. "You're quiet," she said. "Eating. You haven't touched your sandwich." I looked down. She was right. She leaned back against the counter, arms crossed. "Jake." That was worse than anything. Not Mr. Callahan's wife voice. Not Tyler's mom voice. Just my name, soft and direct. I picked up the sandwich and took a bite like that solved something. She smiled a little. "That convincing, huh? You always watch men eat? Only when they act like they're sitting through a church interview." I swallowed and set the sandwich down. "You want me to act normal?" "I want you to stop acting like I'm going to scold you." I looked at her then. Really looked. "That depends what I'm doing wrong." Her smile faded, but she didn't look away. Nothing happened. Not then. She pushed off the counter, cleared her throat, and started talking about the county fair setup that weekend like we had not just stepped right up to the edge of something. I let her. I was grateful for it and annoyed by it at the same time. After that, we kept finding reasons to be in the same place. Some were real. A mare of hers came up tender, and I went over to check her leg. The fairgrounds needed panels moved, and Hannah was running the livestock check-in because half the committee could not organize a feed bucket without a meeting. A trailer light went out. Then a water line by the holding pens started leaking. Then a load of hay showed up 2 hours late, and I helped stack until my shirt was soaked and my shoulders burned. Every time she was there. Every time we acted like there was nothing strange about it. We got good at talking around the thing. Too good. "You always drive this fast?" she asked one evening, riding beside me in my truck with one boot braced against the floorboard. "This is not fast. It is on a road with potholes big enough to have addresses." "You city now?" She cut me a look. "Say that again and I'll make you unload the next 50 bales by yourself." "You were going to do that anyway." "Probably." The sun was low, throwing orange light across the dash, and her knee bumped mine when we hit a rut. She didn't move it right away. Neither did I. The truck rattled on, loud enough to give us both an excuse not to say anything. At the fairgrounds that Friday, things got worse. Not worse bad, worse good, which was more trouble. There was a dance after the youth rodeo, one of those local things with folding tables, string lights, a band that knew 6 songs real well, and everybody pretending they had not come just to watch everybody else. I was there because I had hauled 2 horses for a kid whose dad's truck gave out. Hannah was there with a clipboard, arguing with a vendor about booth space. By 9, her hair had come loose around her face, and she looked ready to either laugh or throw that clipboard at someone. "You need a drink," I said. "I need people to read the forms they sign." That too. I brought her a beer from the cooler. She took it and leaned beside me against the rail, looking out at the dance floor. "You remember Tyler trying to 2-step out here?" she asked. "He stepped on Megan Riley's foot so hard she cried. She still brings that up. He earned it." Hannah laughed, then went quiet. "He called yesterday. How's Dallas treating him?" "Like he's important, according to him." I smiled, but she didn't. "He wants to talk about selling the East Strip," she said. My smile went away. "By the highway?" She nodded. "That's good grazing after a wet spring. It's also good frontage for people who think every open piece of land needs a coffee place and a storage unit." "You told him no?" "I told him it wasn't his decision. And he explained numbers to me like I forgot how money works." She took a drink, jaw tight. I looked out toward the dark arena. "He's always been good at explaining things he ain't had to live with." She turned her head toward me. I realized too late how sharp that sounded. But she didn't correct me. She just watched me for a moment and said, "Dance with me." I almost laughed because I thought she was messing with me. She wasn't. "Hannah." "What?" "That's a bad idea." "Probably." She held out her hand anyway. I should have said no. I had enough sense to know that. There were people everywhere. People who knew her, knew me, knew Tyler, knew the history of that kitchen and those muddy boots by the back door. But I took her hand. We danced one song. Just one. Nothing flashy. My hand at her back, hers on my shoulder. Enough room between us for public decency, and not nearly enough for my peace of mind. She followed easy, but she also pushed back when she wanted, like she did with everything else. Halfway through, she looked up at me and said, "You're better at this than Tyler ever was. That bar is on the floor." She smiled. Still, the song ended. We stepped apart too slowly. I saw Mrs. Harlow from the feed store looking over. Hannah saw her too. Instead of pulling away quick, she finished her beer and said, "Take me home, Jake." The ride back was quiet. At her place, I parked near the porch and left the engine running. She didn't get out. The porch light was off, but the kitchen light was on, yellow through the window. "This is where you say goodnight," she said. "Is it?" "It should be." I turned toward her. "Then say it." She looked mad at me then. Not really at me, maybe at both of us. "You think I don't know what this is?" "I don't know what you know. I know you were 10 years old in this house." "I'm not 10 now." Her breath caught. Just a little. I shut off the engine. That small click sounded louder than it should have. She opened her door and got out. And for 1 second I thought she was ending it right there. Then she walked to the porch, stopped with her hand on the rail and looked back. I got out. Neither of us said anything until we were inside the kitchen. The same kitchen. The old table. The same cabinets. The whole past sitting there like a witness. She turned on me fast. "This is reckless," she said. "I know. You should leave." "I know that too." "Then why aren't you?" I stepped closer. "Because you don't want me to." That did it. She came toward me or I came toward her. I'm still not sure. It was not gentle at first. It was all the things we had been not saying in the truck, at the fence, beside the arena rail, stacked up and spilling over. Her hands grabbed my shirt like she was angry at it. I backed into the counter. She said my name once, low, like a warning, and I answered by pulling her close. After, the house was too quiet. We sat on the edge of her bed in the dark, not touching at first. My shirt was somewhere by the door. Her breathing had steadied, but she would not look at me. I said, "Hannah." She shook her head. "Don't make this sweet." I wasn't going to. That made her laugh once, small and tired. Then she reached for my hand. That was the part that scared me more than everything before it. For 3 days we acted like nothing had happened. I fixed a gate for Old Man Stewart. She worked the store books and answered fair committee calls. We saw each other once at the post office and talked about feed prices like strangers with manners. Then she texted me after dark. Back porch light is out. I knew that porch light was not out. I went anyway. After that, it got hard to call anything a mistake. Mornings before anyone was on the road, I'd pull in behind her barn. Evenings, she'd meet me by the tack room with some excuse about a latch or a mare or a missing invoice. Sometimes we did talk. Sometimes we argued about Tyler, land, money, town gossip, and whether I was risking more than I admitted. Sometimes she made coffee and stood barefoot in the kitchen like I belonged there, and that was the most dangerous part of all. Because wanting her was one thing. Fitting into the quiet spaces of her life was another. One night, after I helped her haul panels back from the fairgrounds, we sat on my tailgate behind the barn with 2 beers between us. She had dust on her cheek. I wiped it off with my thumb before I thought better of it. She caught my wrist and held it there. "We can't keep pretending this is just sneaking around," she said. "The hardest part of a secret isn't keeping it. It's deciding when to stop. Ever had a secret that was just too big to hide? Let's talk in the comments." I looked toward the house, then the dark road beyond it. "No," I said. "We can't." And right then, headlights turned in at the far gate. Fast, bright, familiar. Hannah stood up before I did. I knew that truck. Tyler was home. Tyler's truck came through the gate like he had already decided somebody had done something wrong. That was my first thought, and it hit me before I even saw his face. The headlights bounced over the ruts, cut across the barn wall, and landed on me and Hannah standing too close by my tailgate with 2 beers between us and the whole night hanging open. Hannah didn't move away from me. That was the thing I noticed. She stood straight, one hand on the edge of the tailgate, dust still on her jeans, hair loose around her face. She looked toward the truck like she was annoyed, not ashamed. I respected that. It also scared the hell out of me. Tyler parked hard beside the barn and stepped out wearing pressed jeans, clean boots that had not seen real mud in years, and a white button-down with the sleeves rolled just enough to look casual. He had city weight on him now. Not fat, just softer around the edges, smoother, like life had stopped asking him to lift anything. "Mom," he said. Then he saw me. His face shifted through 3 different expressions before it settled. Surprise first, then confusion, then something colder. "Jake." "Tyler." He looked from me to Hannah, then to the beers, then back to me. "What are you doing here this late?" I could have lied. I had lied plenty in my life when a lie made things easier. But right then, standing beside her barn with her truck parked near mine and the tailgate down, every lie sounded cheap before it even left my mouth. "Hauled panels back from the fairgrounds," I said. "At 10:30? Started late." He gave a short laugh, but there was no humor in it. "You always this helpful now?" Hannah stepped in before I could answer. "Why are you here without calling?" He turned to her. "I did call. Twice. You didn't answer." "I was busy." His eyes cut to me. I felt my jaw tighten. He walked closer, slow, like he was trying to read the ground between us. "I came because we need to talk about the East Strip before the Reynolds Group backs off. I've got a guy coming tomorrow to look at access." Hannah's face went hard. "You invited someone to walk my land without asking me? It's not some stranger. It's preliminary. It's my land, Tyler. It's family land. It became my land when your father signed what he signed and left me to keep it from falling apart." He flinched at that, but only for a second. Then he looked at me again. "And you're in on this now?" "In on what?" "Whatever this little ranch hand advisory board is." Hannah said his name sharp. "Do not talk to him like that." That was when Tyler really saw it. Not the whole truth, maybe. Not the details. But enough. He saw the way she defended me without thinking. Saw the way I didn't step back. Saw the space between us had already been crossed, even if he didn't know when or how. His mouth opened, then shut. "Oh," he said. One small word, but it changed the air. Hannah folded her arms. "Tyler." "No." He stepped back and laughed once, ugly and stunned. "No. Tell me I'm reading this wrong." Nobody spoke. I had taken enough punches in my life to know the second before one lands. That was what his silence felt like. He looked at his mother first. "Are you kidding me?" "Lower your voice," she said. "Lower my voice? With him?" Then he turned on me, and there it was. All the old years between us, every sleepover, every fishing trip, every summer day burning our feet on that driveway, all of it twisting into something sharp. "You grew up in this house," he said. "I know. She fed you. She let you stay here when your dad was drinking too much and your mom was working doubles. She treated you like family." I swallowed. "I know. And this is what you do?" Hannah stepped forward. "Stop." He ignored her. "You couldn't find anybody else in this town? You had to crawl back here?" "Tyler," I said, voice low. "What? You want to act tough now? You want to stand here in my mother's barn like you're some man of the place?" "That's enough," Hannah said. "No, it's not enough." His face had gone red. "This is humiliating. Do you understand that? People are going to talk. They're already talking, probably. And you," he pointed at me, "you know exactly what this looks like." I did. That was part of what made it cut. But Hannah didn't bend. "What it looks like to people is not how I make decisions," she said. He stared at her like she had slapped him. "You're 45. I can count. And he's Jake. I know who he is. He was my best friend. He is standing right here." Tyler looked at me again, and for 1 second I saw the boy I used to know, hurt underneath all that anger. But he buried it fast. "You were supposed to be better than this," he said. That one landed. I felt it in my chest. Hannah must have seen it because she moved closer to me, not touching, but close enough that Tyler noticed. He shook his head slowly. "Wow." Nobody had a clean answer. There wasn't one. So he did what angry people do when the truth is too complicated. He made it uglier. He told me I was using her. He told her she was lonely and not thinking straight. He said I had found a way to make myself important around a property I had no claim to. He said she was embarrassing herself. He said I was betraying him, betraying every plate of food his mother had ever put in front of me. By the end of it, my hands were curled at my sides. Hannah was the one who finally snapped. "Get out." Tyler blinked. "What?" "You heard me. I drove 3 hours because I'm trying to help you." "No," she said. "You drove 3 hours because you think helping me means taking over before I can say no." His face changed again. That hurt him too, but he was too mad to hear it. "You'll regret this," he said. "Maybe," she answered. "But it will be mine to regret." He looked at me one last time. "And you, stay away from me." Then he got in his truck and threw gravel all the way back down the drive. For a long while after he left, neither of us spoke. The night bugs kept buzzing. One of the horses shifted in a stall. The beer on the tailgate had gone warm. Hannah sat down slowly, like all the bones had gone out of her legs. I stayed standing. "I should go." She looked up at me, and there was no softness in her face now, just exhaustion and fire. "Don't you dare." "Hannah." "No. If you leave right now because my son threw a fit, then everything he said gets to be true." I looked toward the gate where Tyler's dust still hung faint in the dark. He wasn't wrong about all of it. He was wrong about enough. The next morning, half the town seemed to know there had been a fight, even if they didn't know exactly why. By noon, Mrs. Harlow at the feed store stopped talking when I walked in. By 2, Carlos gave me a careful look and asked if I was doing all right, which in a town like ours meant everybody had heard something and nobody wanted to be first to say it out loud. Then real life, as usual, did not care. One of Hannah's geldings cut himself on a loose edge of tin near the old loafing shed. Not bad enough to panic, but bad enough to need handling. A storm had peeled the tin back 2 weeks earlier, and the repair had been on the list behind 10 other things. I got the call from Hannah while I was loading feed at Stewart's place. "Can you come?" she asked. There was a pause after it, like she hated needing anything from me right then. I'm on my way, I said. When I got there, Tyler's truck was back. He stood by the shed with his phone in hand, talking fast to somebody about surveys and frontage and contract windows. Hannah was holding the gelding's lead rope, face tight. The horse tossed his head, nervous from the sting in his leg and the tension around him. I walked past Tyler without saying a word and took the rope from Hannah. Easy, Blue, I said, running my hand down the horse's neck. You're making everybody look bad. The horse settled some under my hand. Tyler stopped talking. I cleaned the cut, wrapped it, then went straight to the loose tin with my drill and a box of screws from the truck. The whole time, Tyler watched me like every useful thing I did annoyed him more. When I climbed down, he said, "So now you're the hero." I wiped sweat off my forehead with my sleeve. "No, I'm the guy who fixed the tin." "That's convenient." Hannah turned on him. "Enough." "No, Mom. You don't see it because you don't want to. He's making himself necessary." I looked at him then. I was necessary around here long before this. He stepped closer. "Say that again." "I said I was here. That's all. When fences broke. When horses needed hauling. When your mom needed somebody who knew which gate stuck and which pump needed priming. You were in Dallas taking meetings. That's fine. You built your life. But don't come back and act like nobody was supposed to keep this one running." His face went pale under the anger. For the first time, he didn't answer right away. Hannah looked between us, and I could tell that hurt her, hearing it plain. But it was plain. That was the problem. Tyler finally said, "You think that gives you the right?" "No," I said. "It doesn't give me rights to anything. Not the land. Not her. She chooses what she chooses." Hannah's eyes moved to me. Tyler looked at her too, waiting, maybe hoping she would soften it. She didn't. "I'm not ending this to make you comfortable," she said. His mouth tightened. "So that's it. That's it." He stared at both of us like we had become strangers at the same time. Then he nodded once, stiff and bitter. "Fine. But don't expect me to pretend this is normal." Hannah lifted her chin. "I'm not asking you to pretend." I stood beside her in the dust, my shirt dirty, my hands nicked up, my whole past with Tyler burning right there between us. And even with all that heat coming at us, neither one of us stepped away. After that day by the loafing shed, hiding got impossible and pretending got stupid. Hannah was the first one to say it out loud. We were standing in her kitchen before sunrise, coffee between us, my shirt still dusty from the day before. I had planned on slipping out early, like we had been doing, before the county road woke up and before somebody drove by slow enough to count trucks. She watched me pick up my hat from the chair and said, "Leave by the front door." I stopped. "What?" "The front door, Jake." I looked toward the mudroom like I had misunderstood. "Hannah." "No." She folded her arms, calm but not soft. "I am not sneaking you out of my house like I stole you." That landed harder than I expected. So I walked through the front room, past the old pictures, past Tyler's graduation frame, past the spot where I used to drop my backpack when I was 12. Hannah opened the front door herself. The morning was gray-blue, cool for once, and my truck sat right there in plain sight. Mrs. Harlow drove by in her little red SUV just as I stepped onto the porch. Of course she did. Her brake lights tapped once. Her head turned. Then she kept going. Hannah saw it too. I waited for her to flinch. She didn't. She just leaned against the doorframe and said, "Well, that saved us a press release." I laughed because there was nothing else to do. By noon, the town had a pulse again. Not everybody said something, but everybody looked. At the feed store, a man I had known my whole life asked if I was working for Hannah full-time now. With that little edge people put on words when they want them to cut. I set 2 bags of mineral tubs on the counter and looked him in the eye. "No, I work for whoever pays on time." He didn't have much after that. But the talk wore on Hannah harder. She did not show it in public. She walked into the supply store with her head up and ran the books like usual. She corrected invoices, answered calls, ordered feed, and told a barrel racer's dad he could either pay his account or stop acting surprised when credit closed. Same Hannah, same voice. Only I saw her at the end of the day, sitting on the porch with her boots off, quiet in a way that was not peaceful. Say it, I told her one evening. She looked at me over her beer. Say what? That this is costing you. She stared out toward the pasture. Everything costs something. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got tonight. Tyler made sure it cost more. He came back the next week with papers in a leather folder and a lawyer on speakerphone. I was in the barn replacing a cracked board when I heard raised voices from the house. I didn't go in at first. That was family ground, and I was still learning where to stand. Then I heard Hannah say, "You will not talk over me in my own kitchen." I set the hammer down and walked up the back steps. Tyler was at the table, jaw tight, one hand on the folder. Hannah stood across from him. She had that stillness she got when she was past angry. Tyler saw me in the doorway and shook his head. "Of course. What are you doing?" I asked. "Trying to protect my mother's future." "My future is standing right here," Hannah said. He opened the folder and tapped the paper. "This would put the East Strip into a managed sale structure. You keep control of the house and main acreage, but we move the highway frontage before the market shifts. It's practical." "It's pressure," she said. "It's money. It's my decision." He looked at me. "And what does Jake think? Since apparently he gets a vote now." I stepped inside. "I don't." "Good. But if you want my opinion, selling that strip cuts off the best access to the lower pasture, makes moving cattle harder, and puts a construction road right where your mother hauls horses twice a week." Tyler laughed under his breath. "Listen to you." "No," Hannah said. "Listen to him. He knows the place." That was the part Tyler could not stand. Not the age difference. Not the whispers. Not even me and Hannah. It was that simple fact. I knew which gate needed lifted before it latched. I knew the mare that hated red trailers. I knew the creek crossing that went soft after one hard rain. I knew her days because I had been there for them, while he only knew the property from maps and numbers. He packed the folder slowly. "You're making a mistake," he told her. "Then let me make it." His face hardened. "He'll leave. Men like him always want the hard thing until it becomes ordinary." I felt Hannah go still beside me. That one was meant for both of us. I could have fired back. I wanted to, but I just said, "I got offered a lease outside Abilene." Hannah looked at me quick. She didn't know. Tyler blinked. "What?" 40 acres, small barn, room to build up a horse operation. Good deal. Better than anything I'll get here. Hannah's face changed, and I hated that I had not told her sooner. Tyler gave a bitter smile. "Well, there it is. I turned it down this morning," I said. The room went quiet. I looked at Hannah, not him. "Not because you asked. You didn't. Not because I expect anything from you either. I turned it down because I'm not done here. I'm building something, even if people want to call it something uglier." She stared at me like she was deciding whether to be mad or moved. Tyler had no answer, so he left with his folder. 2 days later, the real test came without asking anybody's permission. A hard wind pushed through late in the afternoon. Not one of those pretty storms people talk about on porches. Just mean weather with dust in its teeth. It knocked a limb through the old arena fence and spooked 3 horses during a clinic Hannah was hosting for local kids. One gelding got loose, bolted through the broken section, and tore off toward the county road. Everybody froze for half a second. Then Hannah yelled, "Jake!" I was already moving. Carlos tossed me a lead rope. I jumped in my truck, cut across the back pasture, and caught sight of the gelding near the ditch, wild-eyed and blowing hard. I didn't rush him. I parked sideways to slow any traffic, stepped out quiet, and talked low until he stopped dancing around long enough for me to get a hand on the halter. By the time I brought him back, half the county fair board was standing at Hannah's arena, including Tyler. I didn't know he was there until I stepped down and handed the rope to the girl who owned the horse. She was crying, and Hannah had an arm around her shoulders, steadying her like she steadied everyone. The broken fence needed fixing before dark. So we fixed it. Me, Carlos, Hannah, 2 dads, and after a long minute, Tyler too. He took off his clean watch, rolled his sleeves, and held boards without saying much. He was awkward with a drill. Always had been. But he stayed. When we finished, the wind had dropped, and the arena lights were buzzing overhead. Tyler stood near his truck, looking at the repaired rail. Then he looked at me. "You always know what to do?" he asked. "No. But you don't leave." I wiped my hands on my jeans. "Not when something still needs doing." He nodded once. Not friendly, not warm, but different. Then he walked over to Hannah. I stayed back, but I could still hear him. "I don't like it," he said. "I know. I may never like it." "I know that too." He looked toward me, then back at her. "But he showed up." Hannah's voice softened. "He usually does." Tyler swallowed, like that hurt and helped at the same time. "I'm still mad." "You're allowed." "I said things I shouldn't have." "Yes," she said. "You did." He nodded, eyes down. "I'm sorry for some of them." That was all he had in him. For Tyler, that was a lot. A month later, nobody had stopped talking, but they had gotten bored with making it new. That is how towns are. Give them enough normal days and even scandal starts needing fresh fuel. Hannah and I didn't make a show of anything. We went to the supply store together. I came through the front door. She rode beside me in the truck with her hand resting on my knee when we were out past the last house. Sometimes Tyler called and spoke stiffly. Sometimes he asked about the property before asking about her. It wasn't healed. It was just honest, which was better than what we had before. One evening, Hannah and I stood by the south fence, the same line where this whole thing had started. The repair was holding. The cattle moved slow in the last light. My hands were sore, my neck sunburned, and she was beside me like she had decided that was where she belonged. "You regret it?" she asked. I looked at her. "No, not even on the loud days? Especially not then." She smiled, but her eyes stayed serious. "Good." Then she took my hand right there in the open.